Good afternoon, RoboCats. I'm standing here. Happy Saturday, March the 21st, 2020. To all of you, I won't introduce myself. Hopefully, in the last couple of weeks, you haven't forgotten who I am, and this is pointed at our audience, the RoboCat family. Not like we're normally doing, kind of pushing this out on Facebook Live, and I have to say it feels a little bit strange to be standing here by myself, and you might think that's kind of strange. It's certainly uncommon because commonly I'd be standing here with a couple of you, and I much prefer that. In fact, I would much rather be standing here or sitting somewhere live with a whole group of you. But that is not the case because we're in uncommon times, and so I think uncommon times deserve an uncommon response. So I decided to throw this out there, and I hope that what I'm going to share, I'm just going to acknowledge and try to celebrate a few things, and then kind of focus on leadership for a few minutes, and hopefully share a few things that might be encouraging to all of us, and give us some good reminders about how we can be moving forward together during this really crazy time that a lot of people are just calling weird. It really is kind of weird, but I'm happy to be standing here alive and well. And speaking to you. I look forward to some live interactions via Zoom real soon as we kind of wind down our official spring break and go back to school next week. We'll all see what that looks like. But I do want to acknowledge, it wasn't even 2 weeks ago. Like 2 weeks ago, about this time, we'd be wrapping up hosting our first ever FTC UIL state championship. I can't believe that sentence just came out of my mouth. I mean, we were ready to go. Like, those 2 mornings, that Friday and Saturday, we would have been standing right here. I'd been witnessing Rudy and our amazing Team Concierge crew out here crushing it with our happy, hustling, servant-hearted hosting and parking people in the senior parking lot during school for the first time ever. We would have been getting drenched because it was going to rain those 2 days, but we'd have gotten through it. And we were going to host a couple dozen teams inside this building during school. Like, that took an unprecedented amount of cooperation on our campus that, quite frankly, I don't think would have happened a couple years ago. It certainly would have happened because we didn't have this building. But man, what a great opportunity we were lined up to have almost 900 something students and their teachers come through that event on Friday and experience what we were trying to do to help set the bar a little higher for what it looks like to host an FTC tournament in the way First really knows how to do it. And then, of course, let's not forget that Saturday, our own Retrobots had qualified as for their first time ever to actually be competing in the 5A, 6A division of the state championship. And man, they were going to go at it. Luke and his team had put a new version of their robot together that was going to go out there. We'd have watched Luke and Rhett drive the lights out. They were going to be picking up a couple Sky Stones, scoring consistently during Auton and in Teleop. They were going to be delivering and stacking Sky Stones twice as high possibly as they were just a month before that, because they worked hard to keep getting better. They might have gone 6 high with some of those, and of course we know that Tomas and Yi and Chris and Luke and Javier would have been in there like thumping it at the DJ station, while the rest of those guys were interacting with the other teams and soaking up all the greatness that was in the room. And of course, if we would have walked through these doors, we'd have turned the corner and there would have been the UIL with a booth, and the First in Texas with a booth, and our amazing boosters. Can we shout out our boosters? They were going to be locking it down in the lobby, pushing some chips across the table and maybe loading out some hot dogs and helping us continue to raise resources for our program and feed the hungry masses in between matches. And we would have had our video game station out there with Steve's awesome, man, I can't think of the name of it right now, and Ryan's big box of Bright and the Mars mat and Lego robots, and it would have been amazing. It absolutely would have. Then we'd have, hauled ourselves inside that room and see that amazing power plan that Mr. Johns and Mr. Angriano put together, so that if we didn't have some dangerous daisy chain disaster going on in there to distribute power. Man, what a great testimony to the teamwork that we were ready to do that, and that the Retrobots were ready to compete. And let's not forget that they had qualified, of course, to go to the World Championships. And man, they were gunning to go down and soak up all that we know that have been what that's like. And then literally today, March 21st, we would have been on the backside of the second FRC qualifier. And man, the Gary robot was on its way to much improved performance over the first one in Greenville, where they were already on the made it into the playoffs. So we would have seen Colin driving the lights out and Ruby shooting the lights out with Ryan's really expertly designed software and Limelight system shooting the power cells right where they belong. With improved, every one of those systems was going to be improved. And man, that was due to just some unprecedented levels of teamwork and cooperation and prototyping and iteration and workshops in the fall, and great leadership from Mr. Tollison, and partnerships with American Airlines, and I mean, a new logo, a new branding, and man, so many things to acknowledge and celebrate. And I truly think we'd have been there. I mean, we were on our way to be competing again with some of the best teams on the planet. We would have, been coming back that night here, like tonight, like loading in right here and reminiscing on all the great fun we'd have had that days. And of course, I know that we would have had a whole bunch of other RoboCats in the stands. I know Skylar would have been there. Well, first of all, it would have been Cole and Gene and Jackson and Edna and Isaac holding down the fort in the pits and up in the stands with scouting, and the daggum boosters were scouting, Dulce and Christina. Man, what a great team effort that we already saw displayed when we were in Greenville. And we know that would have gone on in Dallas with a whole bunch of scouting support from people like Skylar and Javier and Sophia, and I bet Rhett would have showed up, and Tomas, and who knows who else. Like, anyway, none of that was obviously meant to be, and I think we should both celebrate that we were on our way to that, but also acknowledge that I don't know if you're like me, but I'm disappointed and kind of sad. I love competing, and maybe more importantly, getting prepared all year long for these kind of things, and so it's disappointing, and I think we should acknowledge that. And so that's part of why I'm here today, is just to say that, but really more importantly is to say that while those doors clearly closed, the state championship door, the world's door, the doors of opportunity have swung wide open for all of us. And not just in the world of RoboCats and robotics, but we're in an unprecedented, and who's heard that word at least once in the last week, an unprecedented time when leadership matters like it always does, more than anything. And if this program is going to be about one thing, and I know my coaching colleagues and our mentors, we're all on the same page that we're about building the leaders for the future. That's what we're devoting our lives to in this season of our life right now. And we're convinced, we already believe that that's who you're meant to be, and that's who you're already being and becoming. The world, I've said it a few times and I'll say it again, like, all the good ideas haven't been thought of yet, and clearly all the big problems in the world haven't been solved. Another one just landed on our doorstep with a deadly threat. And we've got first responders and doctors and nurses and researchers and scientists coming together to figure out how we're going to push that thing back and kill it. And thankfully there's some good news coming out of that corner. And I had a little hope myself the other night. I played Pandemic for the first time with the LaPlantes after we enjoyed some backyard barbecue that Mr. LaPlante cooked up. As super delicious. My friends and learned Pandemic and actually win. But man, it was such a complicated game. There's so many variables, and like, it's confusing. And right now we could all be back on our heels wondering, like, what is going to happen. But I just want to go through a little bit of a few leadership reminders, not because I'm some expert, but I have had some really expert leaders pour their life into me and help me learn a few things about leadership that I just want to share, and hope that they'll be helpful reminders and maybe challenge us all to think about how are we going to lead and how we're going to do that together in this season going forward. And honestly, it's something that one of the leaders put together a few years ago, so I'm kind of just going to spit it back at you. And he put it together with a series of S's that might make it easier to remember. It does for me. It helps me go back to it over and over, like leaders need to do. And so the first thing that I think we have to keep in mind is that leaders first have to decide to stand up. When there's a crisis, when there's a problem, you can't sit back, you can't lay back. You've got to stand up and decide, I'm gonna look at the situation and decide I'm gonna do something about it, and I'm gonna be one of the people who steps into the chaos and starts learning how to bring order and create new opportunities in the middle of it. And then, so once you've stood up, then you've got to decide to step up and to stand up. You stand up and then you step up and step forward and say, hey, what gifts do I have that I can contribute to what's going on? And then grab some people around you and let's get those gifts together and get busy thinking about how we can be creators and not consumers and not consumed by fear, which certainly is something that we all have to fight right now. Like, we're talking about being in a time when the whole world is focused on one thing that has the potential to be deadly. And so let's just be sober-minded about that and acknowledge that this is not some fake news hoax. This is a real problem. But there is good news that really smart people who are diving in, who are leading, who are standing up and stepping up, are speaking up also. I've just read a number of things that just give me a lot of hope. And they're speaking up, and that's the third step. Once you've decided to step up, stand up and step up, you've got to speak up. You've got to use your voice. Every single person who I hope is listening to this would know that your voice matters, that your life matters, and that you've got to stand up. And even if it's just today that you decide you're going to pick up the phone and call somebody and ask them, maybe it's somebody you hadn't talked to in a minute, and just say, how are you doing? Like, how are you really doing? Not give me the I'm standing in Cane's waiting for some chicken answer, like, oh, I'm fine, everything's good. Like, how are you really doing dealing with all this? And let them know that you care about the answer. We all need to stay connected now in ways while we're social distancing and wisely working to flatten the curve. Those are some of the most important things we can do, and that's part of what motivated me to do this. Now, it's just a video and we're not talking to each other, but just know that I'm wide open. I've got more time maybe than I've had in good gosh knows how long. I'd welcome a call, a Zoom time. That's probably the closest we're going to come face to face. So I just put that out there. So here we go. We got to stand up. We got to step up. We got to speak up, and then we also need to make sure that we stay humble. Leaders know that we don't have nobody has all the answers. Especially not now. I think the world has been humbled in a way that maybe we haven't been in a long time. We got to remember that it takes us working together, and we got to stay humble. And then the last thing is that we stay focused on serving the greater good. And that's certainly a big part of our mission, right? Is looking outward and trying to figure out how can we go impact more people with the solutions that can come with STEM humans and coming together around creative new ideas that are innovations and inventions, and that's happening. So those I hope those S's will help you to remember to stand up, step up, speak up, stay humble, and then stay focused on serving the greater good. And I want to give two examples that are going on that I'm aware of. One's kind of got some really big global implications, and one's really close to home with some global implications. Some of you guys that are seniors will remember it. I know Mr. Tolleson and Mr. Carver and Mr. LaPlante know my friend, and Carolyn and Ryan know Steve Yencho. He's a great friend of mine who has 2 PhDs from Stanford. He used to run the rapid prototyping lab out there. He's got over 140 patents to his name. He started and sold 2 companies that are still operating, one with a medical device that's helping tens of thousands of people a year with the first robotic open heart bypass surgery in history, and he's also invented a water purification device that a lot of us know about that is operating failure-free in 5 countries for more than a dozen years, and it was designed to help the bring the purest water to the poorest people for the cheapest price on planet Earth. Okay, like most people don't have that on their resume, but Steve's adding something to his resume right now that I got a sneak peek on back in November during Thanksgiving when a couple of my kids were here, and we drove over to his living room, and right there on his workbench was a prototype of this surface disinfectant unit, which was he was working to redeploy the same technology that works to clean water to disinfect surfaces in hospitals and other places that quite frankly there just isn't a good solution out there anywhere. Sometimes hospitals can be the most dangerous places for sick people to go, and I just traded text messages with him today, and he said that product is there. He's got a small team together now, and they're working to have that product ready in 14 days to go to the market. I don't know what that looks like on his end, but I have no doubt that that's what's going to happen. And right here closer to home, I just was on a call with our other nonprofit partner, Michael Bezdek from Eternal Water, and his partner Stephanie, they're both doing a bunch of work in Central Africa and Guatemala, as most of you know, and also Mr. Kellerman, our great friend. And we decided, hey, we're going to push forward with our Water First project. We're just going to kind of flip things around because we don't know if and when we might be able to go on the trip, but we are going to go raise the money for this first well on the project. So stay tuned for more details on that. It's super exciting. We're on a call with those that were committed to go on the trip tomorrow night, and we're going to be talking through that. It's really exciting. I hope that will all give us some reason to be hopeful. There's tons of reasons for that, and again, there's the doors of opportunity have flung wide open. Even though right now these doors behind me, they're closed. Of course they're normally closed, but they're also locked, and nobody's going in. Not today, not Monday, and not for the foreseeable future. I hope we'll be back in there soon. But in the meantime, I think what we need to do is decide how we're going to run through these big doors of opportunity that are wide open to all of us. I really don't know what that looks like. The coaches and the mentors have started talking about some ways that we can do that together that will help us continue to serve our campus and serve our community and really go seek the welfare of our friends around the city and maybe even around the country. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be inviting all of you to participate in ways that we can do that together. So for now, I say just stay tuned to Slack, get ready to do some Zooming, and take a minute to go reconnect with somebody. I would really love to do that with anybody who would like to. Pick up the phone, call somebody, get on a Zoom call, stay connected, and then let's go get ready to lead together, RoboCats.